going on, City Hope Youth? My name is Christian.
Man, my name's Joseph.
You guys may have never seen him before,
Maybe,
but
probably not.
he's jumping online with me just for this podcast, and so super thankful to have him here.
Stoked.
This is a married man.
This is
Married
2 years.
man.
Well, not going on 2 years.
2 years. He just
but
got another dog.
I did, man.
That's
Lily
pretty
girl,
cool.
she likes to pee everywhere. You
You
know,
like that's just like you.
yeah,
you like
yeah,
to pee
I like
everywhere.
to just mark my territory.
I respect that.
I'm gonna
though.
pee on you.
Okay, you know I've actually been peed on before. It's not the most fun
Really?
experience.
Where?
Yeah, in elementary school.
Wow, man, that kid needs to go to jail.
He lied to me. He said trust him. Then I got peed on. Yeah, not fun. I'm still scarred. I feel pretty shook right now. But
Man,
so
you need counseling.
yeah, that's why we're doing
That's
this.
why we're doing
Actually,
this. Yeah,
that's why we're
yeah.
doing this.
This is really just a counseling
Yeah,
session.
that was. I can't believe that just got brought up. But okay.
He's still scarred.
Yeah, I'm still scarred. And so we thought it would be so cool because we're in this series, Thank You Next, and we got a bunch of other series coming up in the future. But how cool would it be if all the good stuff that we talked about
Yeah.
at our youth nights, whatever campus you're at or you're watching online, how cool would it be to just dive deeper into it? Because we only get like 15 minutes
Yeah.
for our preaching. And so I know sometimes it's hard to check out. So if you have 15 there and then something like this where you're like, if you want to know more, you can get a little bit more and not something that's super long.
Yeah.
And so we thought it'd be a good idea to just dive deeper. And so we are in our series, Thank You Next, as you guys know. And so we're going to be, thank you.
Next.
Thank you.
Next.
Dude, we suck at singing. That was like, that went better in my head. Than what you
I
said.
actually have a sinus infection, so my voice is gonna be a little off.
I think I need to wear my mask. that's pretty messed up.
I don't think it spreads.
But I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Relationships.
We'll know tomorrow. Relationships,
Yeah.
man. Ooh, gotta love them.
Thank
gotta
you.
love them. Thank you. Next.
Yeah.
Okay. But so we're talking about week 1, and this is really the position that our heart's supposed to be in, where we're supposed to be at, just like in our daily routines.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta get your life together before you
Right.
can jump into a
Absolutely,
relationship.
man.
You know, something that I see, like adults do this, but you see this a lot in teenagers, and it's mostly because it's not really modeled well.
Right.
People try to get their life together by dating somebody.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
They think is like, okay,
Yeah.
I need this person in my life.
They're gonna
And so
complete me.
They will complete me.
They will fill every
He's my
void.
other
Yes,
half.
literally.
Was that ever
Literally.
like you and Haley? We're like, you're my other half. Like, how was that?
I would say thankfully we had our stuff together before we started dating. Man, we're both in love with Jesus, both in love with serving God's people. Loved.
It's a great start.
Yeah, it was a great start. I mean, we really had our priorities together, and I think the most the best part of it all is we weren't looking for a relationship.
Mhm.
We were both at a place where we were like perfectly fine being single.
Yeah.
And then it just molded itself into it.
Just walked in the door one day,
literally,
and you're like,
you
oh
heard
gosh.
God. I heard an audible voice.
He heard it.
She's the one.
Like the clouds, it wrote Haley.
No, I'm just kidding. That does not happen.
It doesn't happen.
That's never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen. Hey, if it does, let me know.
Yeah.
You said you were both like in your own space.
Right.
You
Yeah.
weren't trying to find that person who can complete you. You both were chasing after Jesus on your own.
Yeah.
And so, would you be able to say, if Jesus is not your first love or Jesus is not your first priority, how do you think stepping into a relationship would be? Like, how do you think it would turn out?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of pain, a lot of hurt,
Mhm.
a lot of baggage. I think there's things that God needs to work out in your singleness.
Yeah.
That it's singleness is undistracted time with God.
I love
it's
that.
it's
I love
it's a
that.
lot of
Take notes.
really a lot amount of time where you get to spend time with God and Him, be able to identify things in your life that need to change. Maybe some things that you learned in your parents' marriage or learned in your upbringing, some things that maybe you need to change how you view things, your perspective, all those things. And that's got to happen in your singleness. The verse where Jesus says you got to love your neighbor as yourself.
Mhm.
I think before you can love somebody else, you got to learn to love yourself.
Love yourself. Yeah.
And if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to love somebody.
Super tough. And I love how you brought up like things that you've learned,
Yeah.
because we've all learned things, but at the same time, like that's the way you act. But for so many of us, we don't know where we got these things
Yeah,
from.
absolutely.
And so it's like when you jump into a relationship, you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it's like blind spots.
Like what just happened?
Yeah.
And that stuff that you learned from what culture's telling you, what you learn from like what your parents or your friends' relationships when they're like venting to you and all this stuff.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it's so important to seek first God and all that He has to offer, because the more you seek, I love in James, there's a promise in James 4, it talks about draw near to God and He'll draw near to you.
Absolutely.
And so the thing about when you draw near to God, He loves you way too much to leave you the way that you are.
Yeah.
And so the Holy Spirit starts beginning to work in you. He starts to reveal things that you've missed. But that only comes from when you seek God, when you draw near to God. And so that's where we get rid of all this stuff from, I learned this from my parents. I learned this from X-Men, watching this movie, like whatever. I learned this from this song. You don't really ever want to learn relationship advice from a song like that. That's what so many people do.
Or just like baggage from like other relationships.
From
like
other
I
relationships.
have trust issues because this person broke my heart, or this person cheated on me. You know, there's all these things that we need healing in. Pain, like people do things to us that hurt us, and we can carry that into our next relationship because we didn't handle that relationship the right way, or we didn't find healing after someone breaking our heart. You know, there's things that we can carry on. I think, you know, the greatest way to like bring these things to the surface, maybe you're like, man, I don't know if there are things that I'm dealing with, or man, I really feel like there's some things that I'm struggling with. I think the best way is to hang out in groups of people.
Oh yeah.
So that those things can come to the surface, because there's some things that maybe people can see in you that you don't see, that are blind to you. And you know, good friends, or you know, even hang out with the opposite sex, like just hanging out together in groups of people can really expose some areas in your life that really need to grow. And
especially like right now, because it's so easy to fall into isolation.
Absolutely.
And so what happens in isolation? You get bored. You're like, well, I'm bored. I need a girlfriend. I need a boyfriend.
Right.
And then it's just only you two, but you haven't been hanging out in groups. And so now it's like, well, this person that is my girlfriend or my boyfriend now sees all my blind spots. I wish I could have had some way to work this out.
Right.
And that would be hanging out in those groups. That would be like, and that could even be, you know, if this is something that you should take seriously. It could be finding someone who's in a different like part of life than you, who's already dated somebody, who's already married, and say, hey, like, this is where I'm at right now, and do you think I'm ready to date somebody? Like, do you think I'm ready?
Absolutely.
And build that relationship with that person, and that could even like lead to setting up accountability. Because accountability is a beautiful thing, but so many of us want to run away from it.
Right, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, well, I want to do what I want to do.
Right.
Like, man, I'm my own man. I'm 14 years old. I do whatever I want. Like,
ain't nobody telling me what to do.
Ain't nobody telling me nothing.
Ain't nobody telling me I can't be alone with my girl.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what nobody wants to be held accountable.
Yeah, nobody wants to be held accountable, but at the end of the day, it saves your life.
Absolutely.
Like, because, hey, remember how we talked about those blind spots? That person's gonna know about that relationship if you're honest with them. It only works if you're honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but as you're honest, they have your best interests at mind, and so they're gonna point out these blind spots because they want you to win. Right. And we want you to win. That's the whole point of this Thank You Next series, is we want you to win in relationships. We're all created for relationships.
Absolutely.
So why don't we do it the right way? Why don't we learn how to do it the right way? Like, we have not always had it right. And so we've had people to steer us and point us in the right direction. And with that, we've partnered with God. We've drawn close to God and let Him reveal stuff to us.
Absolutely.
And so I want to challenge you guys, you know, have you really been drawing near to God recently? Because at the end of the day, He's going to be the one who helps reveal those things that are deep inside your heart that you didn't know you had. He's going to be the one who's going to reveal those things where, hey, you had your heart broken here, you thought you healed, but you really didn't.
Yeah.
And so when you draw near, that's when the Holy Spirit begins to move in your life. And that's when he teaches you how to get better. Because, you know, one of the main things is, I don't know how to get better.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't know how to get better. And sometimes, like, if I go to somebody, it's like, well, honestly, I don't really know what to tell you. And so I'm like, well, what do I do now? But that's why you draw near. That's why you draw close to God, because the presence of Jesus can change anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
The presence of Jesus can begin to reveal stuff and point you in the right direction, but that only comes with intentional seeking. And God's got to be the first love of your life.
Absolutely.
Before you can go out and get your little boo thing, get a little baddie who walks down the hallway at school, fourth period, she sits in the back, you know everything about her.
Yeah. Just don't follow her home. That's weird.
Just don't follow her home. That would be weird.
That would be really weird.
But if it does, if you do that,
Yeah.
you learned that from Joseph. Is that how it works?
I guess.
Well, you put it in their mind. You said don't follow them home.
No,
and you know how
that's
you
just
students
creepy.
are. You say don't do it and they do it.
Right, exactly. So,
And so-
follow her home.
Follow her home. Yeah.
I guess that's
And
the
then they're not
opposite.
going to do it.
Yeah, exactly,
It's just like that.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Well, do you have any last closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think I see the biggest thing in relationships, especially in this generation. I see so many of you guys allow people's opinions to dictate who you are who you become.
Come on. Yeah.
And I think that if you're in a place where someone's opinion is a lot louder than God's, or you're allowing a group of people or society of the world to identify who you are, then there's no way that you can get into a relationship right now, because that person could easily manipulate you or easily influence
100%,
you
yeah.
to change who you are for them. And I think the moment that you get to a place where you're so confident in who you are in God and your identity in God, not that, and I know that when we say that it's just so hard for you to understand, but what I mean is you know who you are, so that if anyone tried to influence you to make a decision or influence you to go against the character of Jesus, you would easily have this conviction in your heart, this realization that that's not who I am. So if they do try to pressure me into doing sexual things, it's like, hey, that's not who I am. Like, God calls me to be pure. God
100%.
calls me to have boundaries in my life. Like, this is not the right timing. I know that later in life I'm gonna be able to have those things with my spouse, but right now this is not who I am. And I think so many of you guys are struggling with the influences of the world, and you care so much about their opinion and less about God's.
Yeah.
And it's really affecting your spirit. It's really affecting your soul, because you're allowing these things that you can never take back. And we see it all throughout Scripture. When you do these things with people, or you allow these relationships to tarnish you, or you allow them to get inside of you, or you give a piece of yourself to somebody, it doesn't harm them, it actually harms you. You're harming yourself. And I think that's so hard for this generation to understand, is that the things that it seems like in the moment it's the best thing, but really you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Because God created that just for the confinements of marriage. And I know that this is such a heavy topic, but it's just real. And I think that until you understand and truly find yourself confident in who God is, and His influence and His voice is so much louder than the world's, you will be able to have a really, really, really healthy relationship.
Dude, hey, mic drop. Smack that thing off the table. Like, that was amazing. And this on past Sunday, Pastor Jerry talked about true confidence comes from knowing who you are in God.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're sons and daughters of the Father.
Absolutely.
And so when you fully can grasp that, I'm a son and father of the King. When you know what He says about you, like you guys, you are beautiful. You are loved. You don't have to conform to the way society says. Hey,
100%.
like, this is how relationships should be. go sleep with your boyfriend or go sleep with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not from
let's
God.
test it out.
Let's test it out. Like,
before
it's going to be fine.
Like, it's just not.
And
it's not the reality.
And but the reality of some people in some relationships is, hey, for some of us, you have crossed the line.
Absolutely.
And so, but it's so important to know that there's healing. Like, just because you've messed up once, maybe 1,000 times, don't worry about that. Don't let it weigh you down, because the enemy wants to use all the times you messed up to say, hey, you're never going to get right.
Right.
Hey, because you messed up so many times, like, there's no point in even trying to get right, because he wants to rob you of the joy of a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
He wants to rob you of the cleanliness, the purity of a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And so he wants to just, like, get your mind all foggy, all fogged up, and say, like, hey, look at all your mistakes. But the beauty of Jesus is that He comes and He wipes away every single mistake.
Absolutely.
And so no matter what's gone down in any past relationships, know that there's so much healing and there's so much joy, and there's healthy relationships for you, dating relationships, even just friendships.
Absolutely.
Well, any form of relationship, Jesus always offers healing.
Yeah.
And so, but that comes when you draw near to God, how we were talking about earlier. But man, thank you so much for joining me on our first podcast. And so, guys, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell if you aren't subscribed. Like and subscribe.
Let's go.
And it's gonna be super cool. We're gonna have some more of these, and so I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah,
and I hope you come join me again.
Absolutely.
This is really fun.
Hey man, comment on this post. Like we want to hear from you guys. Like let us know how much you like this podcast. Let us know if you want to see some things. Like we want to put out content.
We want to have fun. This is literally for you guys. Like we want to know what you guys like. Hey, if one of us said something, just type in the chat. Hey, that really helped me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so and who knows? Like you being open about that might lead to someone else being open, and then boom, healing, all this stuff.
Right, absolutely.
Super cool. And this is even a good thing to talk about with your small group leaders.
Yeah.
Say, hey, like I watched this podcast, and this really started speaking to me, and brings up conversation with your small group leader.
Absolutely.
And so thank you guys. We love you all, City Hope Youth. Have a good one.
Peace.
Ooh, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
I think that went good, bro.
Hey, one try.
We literally nothing.
The only thing I said I'd pee on you.
Yeah, bro. We had a
that was
interesting story.
Think about